Reading from Luke, the 22nd chapter, beginning with verse 41. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And there appeared an angel before him from heaven, straightening him and strengthening him, and being in agony he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. May God add his blessing to the reading of his word. We left Jesus last Sunday in the Garden of Gethsemane. He had left the 3 disciples out at the gate. And he had taken 3 a little farther into the Garden of Gethsemane. And then he removes himself into the deeper recesses of the garden. There he waits before his heavenly Father. He is sharing something very dear to his heart. He is aware of the fact that the betrayer is already plotting it. And before the night is going to be over, they will have captured him. Not in the true sense of the word capture, because he could have done something else. But he chose to do the mission for which he was called. And as he is in the garden and he knows what his mission is, he knows what he was appointed for. He waits before God and said, if it is possible at all. And I can see him grab a hold of the olive tree. Or maybe he's putting his hands on a rock and he cries out and said, if at all possible, Father, take away this cup. Take away this cup. None of us live very long in life before each of us find ourselves struggling at the throne of God and saying, why? Why did this come to pass? Why? And we plead with God and say, how long do I have to have this cup before me? You've never read the book, Why Parents Cry. You might take it. It's a small book, but for me, I found it very enlightening. You don't find it in your library or in town, the public library, or in the high school. Then have it ordered for you to read it. It won't take you very long. But the author indicates that we all, at times, find ourselves calling upon God and saying, do I really need this cup? Do I need to walk through this particular valley? You see, Jesus was in this garden. And the garden was fragrant. It was springtime. The flowers were blooming. The pomegranates were in full bloom and bringing faint fragrance to the midnight air. And the cool, refreshing night was there. But he found that the fragrance of the flowers were not very enhancing to him at this moment. He was carrying a heavy burden. And he wanted to have that burden lifted, if at all possible. Now, keep in mind, I'll say more about this some other time, about God's will. I'm simply sharing with you today that prayer that Jesus offered and is talking to his heavenly Father is in perfectly good taste. There is nothing wrong with asking God to remove a cup that God has asked us to carry. Those 5 high school students that drove that vehicle this past week are the one that got killed. That parent left that child to go to school that expected that child to return home. I can believe that those parents cried unto God and say, could this cup have left me? Why do I have to have this cup at this particular point? Why me? Why me? And we need to recognize that unless we have done it to ourselves, we have a right. Those parents didn't do that to themselves. Those students did it to themselves, but not the parents. Those in Chile and Haiti. When will this cup be lifted? That I can again delight, move about, and dance in life with joy and happiness. Jesus is asking, could this cup be removed? He is not questioning the power of God. He is not questioning the righteousness of God. He is not questioning God's ability. But he believes he has a right to ask this question. And the reason why he had the right to ask that particular question is because he had found himself again and again. For as he had walked upon the face of the earth, and he came to a funeral procession, and there was a young boy in there, and the mother was grieving, and Jesus stopped the whole procession, and he said, come forward. The cup was lifted. When there was one that was blind, they took some spittle and put it on his eyes, and the person could see. Peter's mother was ill, and they asked him to go and see. And he touched her, and she came forward. He stood at the tomb of Lazarus, and he had seen. For Martha said, oh, I know he's going to rise, but not now. And Jesus said, yes, you don't understand. I'm going to remove that cup now for you. And he removed the cup at that particular point. Jesus did not question God's ability. Jesus did not question the power of God. Jesus did not question any of that. For it was in the hands of God that that cup could be removed. But today, he said, it's not going to be moved. Today, I'm not going to answer that prayer. That cup cannot be removed. For you have a mission to fulfill. The hearts and lives of people are on stake. Will your love be good enough? Will your compassion be great enough? Will you fulfill it? And when God says no to you, and when God says no to me, when I say, oh God, how long can I carry this? I've carried the burden so long. And how long? Are we going to become angry? Are we going to rebel against God? Say, God, if this is what you do, they tell me you're a God of love, and here I have to carry this heavy burden. What are we going to do? Jesus took